I have spent a good chunk of my life playing video games, and sometimes I wonder what was the main purpose of video games. Some games make me feel like I have successfully escaped the reality, the matrix, like literally. Mommy. And some games make real life look like an escape from video games. One of such games is Elden Ring. Imagine getting home after a long shitty day. You want to chill, you boot up your PC or console, and you choose to play this.
Come on! No!
Brother, at this point just get a camera, wear a maid dress, and sit on a giant fucking cot. That would be more relaxing than this. Trust me, I've tried both. So Elden Ring is developed by From Software, the same company that developed Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Dark Souls. And these games don't have a fan base, they have a cult following. Usually when these type of games release, the player base they attract are same sweaty ass swamp monsters from another Souls-like game. The audience they get is already familiar with mechanics of the Souls-like game, but Elden Ring changed that. They introduced an element that most popular games have, and these games were missing. Open world, and because of that they got audience other than swamp monsters. You see, what open world aspect of a game does is give you the liberty to fuck around and find out, so you can get stronger than you are supposed to. And I know for a fact that Dark Souls players hated it. They want every new player to experience what they have experienced, which is not getting bitches. You can watch any Elden Ring video on YouTube, and if the guy is complaining about open world, he is 100% a Dark Souls player. I don't know what that game did to them, but they hate anything that opens, whether it's the door of their room they never touch, real life open world, or your sister's legs. They are scared of it. Ain't no one opening any legs for them anyway. They want to be in a fucking cell that has no way out, and they'll probably enjoy it. You might be wondering, why do I despise Dark Souls players so much? I'll give you an example. This is one of the many videos that criticize the open world aspect of this game. Very well structured video, by the way. While I agree with... Wait a minute, what do I agree with?
Elden Ring's open world is lacking in certain ways. For example, you no longer have to learn your way around and mentally map out each location as you explore them, because you have an actual map with a marker that always shows your location.
Well, I agree with nothing, I guess. His first point being the game is too easy because there is a map and you don't have to remember places. Brother, trying to remember places is out of the question. People have spent thousands of hours in this game and they still lose their way to the blacksmith in the round table hold. And with the scale of Elden Ring's map, this huge open space, and only few sites of grace telling you where to go, it will be confusing as fuck, if not impossible, for people to navigate around Limgrave, let alone the entire map. About 718 million people have dyslexia. That means every 1 in 11 people have poor sense of direction. What about these people? Fuck these people.
There's also no sense of real danger or tension anymore, because sites of grace are everywhere, and new respawn points called Stakes of Marika have been added, so you always respawn close to where you die. And your dropped runes now come with a map marker to help you find them, and you can ride a horse, making it easy to outrun any and all enemies, to just whiz around the map, retrieving your dropped runes, picking up items, or just travelling to your next destination. If you do want to fight enemies, you can, but if enemies want to fight you, they better ask nicely and hope you take pity on them. So there's no longer a sense of real danger.
His second point being the game is too easy because there is no sense of real danger. Not everyone play games to suffer. Some people buy GTA just to drive around, just so they can listen to music and watch sunset. What do you want, a bomb beneath my ass that goes off if I miss a single dodge roll? Sense of real danger sounds a bit psychotic, you know. I agree that there are no consequences of dying in open world. You can easily retrieve your runes if you die. And there is also sacrificial twig, which lets you keep your runes even if you die. That makes things a lot easier. But that is the point of an open world. Less danger and consequences motivates you to explore. It's like the homepage of Hentai Heaven. You never know what interesting things you can find there. Not to mention the game isolates a lot of boss fights so you can't leave. That means if you can't beat a boss in the second try, you lose all your runes. And all dungeons have these types of isolated boss fights, and a lot of dungeons and caves don't give you the stake of Marika outside the boss room, so you have to go through the whole place again and fight all the enemies because they respawn every time you die. Open world gives you freedom, dungeons bends you over. Seems good to me. As for torrent, What did it do to you? You are telling me you want to walk the entire landmass of Australia and fight every single enemy you encounter? Might as well add temperature to the game. I'm burning! Manual breathing. How about hair routine? You have to sleep 8 hours now. Fuck it, let's marry and have kids. Not having a daughter though. Because every single woman in this game either dies of death or is a hoe.
There's also no consequences to where you go and what you do anymore, as you can't get lost or stuck, because as long as you're not inside a mini dungeon, you can just fast travel whenever you feel like it. This difference is even more noticeable on subsequent playthroughs, as when you're familiar with the world's general structure, you can easily collect items like golden seeds, sacred tears, and smithing stones to greatly increase your power right out the gate without engaging a single enemy.
What do you mean there are no consequences no matter where you go? I get it, it's easy to reclaim runes, but there are like 2 million mini bosses scattered around the map. Dragons are as common as flies. Even some of the normal enemies are harder than the main bosses. Fucking balls. And traps that showed me the darkest caves. Wait, huh? You do lose runes very often on your first playthrough, and losing runes also makes you avoid certain areas. You won't progress if you keep dying, you know. I guess they could have made it so that you lose runes first time you die, and if you fail to retrieve runes the second time and you die, you get some debuff. Or you lose some gear. And the third time, your mother is being kept hostage. And to compensate for losing gear, they could have utilized the crafting mechanic to craft something that can teleport you to your death location to try and reclaim whatever you have dropped. RLcraft did it, and it's such a great thing because you lose everything when you die in that game. And it's very comparable to Elden Ring in terms of difficulty, at least early game. Losing gear early game will be a bit annoying, but late game you can get pretty stacked on armors and weapons, so losing gear could actually be not that bad. As for getting OP early in subsequent playthroughs, it could be a good thing for someone who have suffered enough and want to just run it down. Replaying a game will always be easier no matter what. I see this as a reward for putting all those hours acquiring knowledge about the game. However, this could be a problem for someone who is looking for a challenge, and also getting OP early makes games a lot less fun and engaging, and you might even lose interest in the game. I think I somewhat agree with this point. It's a problem that a lot of games have suffered from. Even in a game like Terraria, which has perfect progression in my opinion, there is nothing stopping you from collecting all the heart crystals and maxing out your health bar.
It basically just comes down to riding around on Torrent and enjoying how the world looks as you move between the more meaningful pieces of content. Much like many other open world games.
Bro, really pull Far Cry 5 to defy Elden Ring? Come on man, this is not even a real game. It's a movie, but sometimes you have to press buttons.
So From Software instead resort to throwing mini bosses or just very strong normal enemies at the player ad nauseum, as these become the only way they have left to actually create challenge. This comes at its own cost, however, as it leads to repetition and, quite likely, boss fight fatigue. There are 157 boss fights in this game, and 237 encounters with a boss or enemy that sometimes shows up as a boss, as I guess everyone agrees that each boss fight should really be completely unique.
Each boss fight should completely be unique. I disagree. This might be an unpopular opinion, but just listen what I have to say. Encountering a boss second time is like a reward. Since you already fought him once, you know his moveset, you know the timings, and you know you're gonna have a lot better time fighting him this time. Why do we do a second playthrough? Because we want to encounter those moments again. And not everyone wants to replay every game.
I mean, what exactly is a Godefroy the Grafted? This feels like walking into a Lidl and seeing an off-brand copy of one of your favourite products.
The Evergaol Godric you just mentioned, me and my friends were actually excited to fight him because it's a copy of one of the main bosses, and because we died like 200 times when we first encountered him. But he turned out to be disappointing because he was too weak, and defeating him only gave us like 4,000 runes, which is unrelated. While I completely agree that too much repetition hurts the game, it isn't as bad as you make it sound like. Yeah, I guess encountering every boss 3 times could be a bit too much and makes them less special. But if you ask an average player, they only encountered every boss once or twice, because most of them are optional. Not everyone's going to explore 100% of the map and fight all the 165 bosses. The average playtime on Steam is only 47 hours.
And then you have Elden Ring, which has 49 minor dungeons, where every single one of them has a boss in their final room guarding a single piece of treasure.
I can't deny dungeons were repetitive, and fighting Earth Tree Spirit and Avatar 50th time was absolutely monotonous. Agreed.
In the end though, these legacy dungeons ended up saving Elden Ring for me, and without them, I cannot imagine how hollow the open world experience would feel on its own. And yet, at the same time, I can't help but wonder what this game would be like if it was all legacy dungeons.
Okay, let's say we remove the map, lower the amount of graces, remove all the sites of Marika, there is no horse anymore, and you have to fight every single enemy you encounter. We also reduced the amount of bosses and made each boss fight completely unique. And lastly, reduced the map size so there is less breathing room. Congratulations mate, you just made another Dark Souls game. I knew from the beginning you just want another Dark Souls game. You like legacy dungeons because it's a confined space and you are only forced to go one way, fighting all the enemies that come into your way, just like in Dark Souls. The solution you give to all these problems is making this game another Dark Souls game. It feels like you are judging this game as if it was Dark Souls 4 and not another Souls-like game. This whole section is Elden Ring is bad because it's open world, rather than why Elden Ring's open world is bad, which sounds more like hatred and less like criticism. The thing is, it's all about perspective. Some games have set a certain standard for this guy, while I am someone who had no experience with these kind of games before playing Elden Ring. The only game that I've played that comes close to a Souls-like game is the Witcher series. I've played Witcher 3 on Deathmatch difficulty and it's nowhere near as hard as Elden Ring. Witcher 2 though, that game can be as hard as Elden Ring. Wait a minute, I didn't realize this video was 1 hour and 44 minutes long. Damn. Making this video probably took him less time than defeating some of the Dark Souls bosses. Do you know what's even crazier? There is a 13 hours long video on Elden Ring's lore and the title of the video says The Entire Lore of Elden Ring Part 1. I thought this was a parody, but when I clicked on the video it's not. It's a very well structured video on Elden Ring's lore, but there is also Part 2 which is 12 hours long. There is also Part 3 which is 10 hours long. How do you even do this? He could have made 4,320 YouTube shorts of 30 seconds duration. That's someone's entire career. If you go to his channel and sort videos by oldest, boom, there it is, Dark Souls fan. Do you see this fan base? They are not mentally stable. Get off my screen, Dark Souls fan. Oh, what is this? I want to share my perspective as someone who stayed away from the games like this, thinking this was just endless suffering. When I first played Elden Ring, I had no idea what the fuck is going on, what class to choose, what to do, and when I encountered Tree Sentinel brother, I was questioning my whole existence. I died like at least 50 times trying to kill him with a club. Definition of insanity never felt so relatable. Because it's the first real boss you encounter, I thought you have to defeat him in order to progress. I ended up giving up and asked my friend for help. Biggest mistake of my life, by the way. Bro is the final boss of trolls. Motherfucker said it's a skill issue and I need a better sword. And he guided me to the edge of the map, like how Insta models guide you to their OnlyFans. I genuinely thought he was helping me, but he took me to another boss fight. Bro was laughing his ass off while my ass was getting annihilated by whatever this is. It took me 2 hours to beat Leonine. I can't really tell which one is harder. Leonine is easy to stagger, but he is fast and harder to dodge. On the other hand, Tree Sentinel is harder to stagger, but he is slow and his attacks are unpredictable and he hits harder. I don't know how many tries it took, but somehow I managed to defeat him. And when I finally equipped the sword, I couldn't use it. It required 40 strength and I was at level 1. I didn't even know what runes were. There are no words that could define how pissed I was. So I went back and started beating the shit out of Tree Sentinel, or the other way around. Eventually I took him down while being at level 1 because my dumbass still didn't know what runes were. But that didn't satisfy me because it didn't feel like I gained anything from killing these bosses. Because the weapons I got from them are practically useless. So I did something that I'm truly against. That is watching illegal Chinese porn. Guide on YouTube. I watched a step-by-step guide on how to become overpowered. And after following a lengthy tutorial, I became the boss myself. Either the boss were getting two-shotted or I was. Everything that came into me. What the fuck? Everything that came into my way turned to dust. I never picked another weapon because why should I? The game became so easy I could kill bosses without wearing any armor. At first it felt really good, but after a while the gameplay became so boring I started losing interest. And killing fire giant with so much ease made me think, what's the point? I can't get any stronger, and even if I could, it would make everything even easier. I can finish everyone with few blows. I have already skipped quests in order to become OP, and there is nothing I want to grind for. So it made me quit. The feeling of progression is what keeps you going. People quit when the things are overwhelmingly hard or extremely easy. Nothing to grind for is my worst nightmare. My only enjoyable hours in the game were when I was trying to kill Tree Sentinel naked. And when I beat the shit out of Leonine with a club. The friend I thought was my worst enemy created some of the best memories I have. I recently played Elden Ring again with my friends and I had such a great time. We had some of the most intensive duels of all time. Anime battle.
तेरा voice बहुत ज़्यादा है वैसे भाई. Anime battle.
Parry God challenge. And whoever shoves the knife into their opponent's acid the most wins challenge. So yeah, just wanted to share my first Elden Ring experience and how insufferable it was, and replaying it with my friends and how fun it was, and also how I disagree with the BDSM Asylum fanbase. Thanks and goodbye.